This story is titled, My Sister Demanded I Babysit Her Kids for Free Every Weekend, so I taught her a lesson she'd never forget. Hi, my name is Emma. I'm 27 years old and I live in Chicago, Illinois. I love my family. I really do, but sometimes love isn't enough to tolerate being taken advantage of. You see, I have an older sister, Jessica, who has always assumed that just because we're family, she has the right to demand anything from me, without giving anything in return. At first, I didn't mind helping out. She's a single mom with 2 kids, and I understood that life was hard for her. But what started as an occasional favor quickly turned into an expectation, a demand that I drop everything in my life to be at her beck and call. And when I finally put my foot down, oh, she was furious. But she never expected what I did next. Let me tell you how I taught her a lesson she'll never forget. It all started about a year ago when Jessica's ex-husband moved out of state. She had full custody of her kids, and even though she got child support, she acted like it wasn't enough. Every time we talked, she'd complain about how tired she was, how much she needed a break, and how unfair it was that she had to do everything alone. I sympathized with her. I really did. So when she asked me to watch the kids for a weekend so she could have some time to herself, I agreed. I figured, why not? They were my niece and nephew, and I loved them. That first weekend was fine. The kids were sweet, and I actually had fun spending time with them. Jessica picked them up Sunday night, thanked me quickly, and then left without even asking how the weekend went. I thought it was a one-time thing. But then, the next Friday evening, my phone rang. It was Jessica. Hey, Emma, I'm dropping the kids off in about an hour. Thanks again. You're a lifesaver. I was confused. I hadn't agreed to anything. Wait, Jess, I have plans this weekend. She scoffed. Cancel them. You don't have kids. You have nothing important to do. That should have been the moment I put my foot down, but instead I gave in. I told myself it was just one more weekend. Spoiler alert, it wasn't. Jessica started dropping them off every single weekend, without even asking me first. She would text me last minute, acting like it was my duty to take care of them. And the worst part? She never even showed appreciation. No thank yous. No offers to compensate me. Not even a simple acknowledgement of how much of my time I was giving up for her. Then one weekend, she pulled her worst stunt yet. I had told her well in advance that I had a work event on Saturday and wouldn't be available. She acknowledged it, so I thought she had finally gotten the message. But guess what happened Friday night? A knock on my door. I opened it, and there stood my 2 nieces, holding their little backpacks. Behind them, Jessica was already walking back to her car. I'll be back Sunday night. Thanks. She waved me off and sped away before I could even respond. I was furious. She had completely ignored me. I had plans, I had responsibilities. But in her mind, my life didn't matter. Only hers did. That weekend, I had to call out of my work event because there was no way I could leave 2 kids alone. My boss wasn't happy, and I realized then that if I kept letting Jessica walk all over me, I was going to start sacrificing my own future for her irresponsibility. So I made a decision. I was going to teach her a lesson, one that she would never forget. The next weekend, when she texted me at the last minute as usual, I played along. Of course, Jess, drop him off whenever. She probably thought she had won again. Oh, but she had no idea what was coming, because this time I had a plan. The next Friday evening, Jessica dropped off the kids as usual, barely giving me a glance before speeding off. She had no idea what I had planned. Instead of spending my entire weekend babysitting for free, I did something different. I hired a professional babysitter, someone Jessica didn't know. I paid out of my own pocket just for this one time because I knew it would be worth it. Then I texted Jessica, "Hey, the kids are safe and sound with a babysitter for the weekend. Since I had plans, I figured you'd be fine covering the cost. It's $200 for both days. You can send the money whenever works for you." I smiled, knowing she was about to explode. 15 minutes later, my phone blew up with calls and texts. "What do you mean, a babysitter? You can't just leave my kids with some stranger. I'm not paying you anything." I calmly responded, "Oh, don't worry. She's a professional, and she's been amazing with the kids so far. You never seem to have an issue leaving them with me without asking, so I figured you'd trust my judgment. Also, I won't be available every weekend anymore. If you need childcare, you'll have to plan ahead and pay for it, just like every other parent does." Silence. For the first time in months, Jessica didn't respond right away. Hours passed, and finally she sent me one last text. You're unbelievable. I thought family was supposed to help each other. You're selfish, I laughed out loud. Selfish? I had spent nearly a year giving up my weekends, sacrificing my time, and being treated like a free nanny, without so much as a thank you. And yet, the moment I refused to be used, I was the selfish one? I ignored her message and enjoyed my weekend for the first time in forever. By Sunday night, Jessica showed up at my place, fuming. Where are my kids? I smiled and gave her the address of the babysitter. She glared at me before storming off, probably expecting me to cave and apologize. But I didn't. And after that, she never pulled that stunt again. Sure, she still tried to guilt trip me a few times, throwing in comments like, I just don't know what I'd do without support from family. But I stood firm. I told her that if she needed a babysitter, she could pay like everyone else. She was furious at first, but over time, she adjusted. She stopped expecting free labor from me. She started arranging actual childcare when she needed a break. And you know what? She managed just fine. The best part? I got my life back. I went on weekend trips, attended events, and finally had time to focus on my own goals. And despite Jessica's initial anger, we actually have a better relationship now. Why? Because I stopped letting her walk all over me. And that's the lesson here. People will take advantage of you as long as you let them. Some will guilt trip you, manipulate you, and act entitled to your time. But the moment you stand up for yourself, they'll adjust. If someone in your life is treating you like a free service, don't be afraid to set boundaries. Because the people who truly respect you, they'll understand. Have you ever had a family member take advantage of you? I'd love to hear your story in the comments. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell for more stories like this. Thanks for listening, and remember, your time is valuable. Don't let anyone make you forget that.